For months, the world was gripped by the trial of Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs is
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Sean Diddy Combs.
We saw the shocking headlines, we heard the chilling allegations, and we braced for a verdict that could have sent one of music's biggest moguls to prison for a very long time. The prosecution painted a grim picture, alleging a sprawling criminal enterprise that trafficked and abused women for years. The world was watching, fully expecting a conviction on those blockbuster charges. But the verdict is in. And while Sean Combs has been officially convicted, it's not for any of the reasons you think. The jury found him not guilty of the heaviest charges, racketeering and sex trafficking. Instead, they convicted him of something else entirely, a charge that got lost in all the media noise but was the one that ultimately stuck. So, what is this stunning conviction that nobody saw coming? Why did it succeed when the other charges failed? And what does it really mean for the future of the fallen icon? The story everyone was watching to really get the surprise here. You have to remember the spectacle of the trial. The case prosecutors built against Sean Combs was massive. This wasn't about one bad night. It was about a pattern of behavior allegedly stretching back to the height of his bad boy fame. The main charge, racketeering conspiracy, is the kind of thing usually reserved for mob bosses. Prosecutors argued that Combs' whole empire, his record label, his companies, his public image, was a front for a criminal enterprise. They claimed he used his incredible power and wealth to control people, especially young women. The trial featured a long line of witnesses who described a hidden world of immense luxury that came at a terrifying price. The allegations were graphic and disturbing. We heard testimony about drug-fueled sex parties, which were reportedly called freak-offs. Witnesses alleged a pattern of violence and abuse. The prosecution's story was that Combs wasn't just an executive, he was the kingpin of an operation built to gratify himself. To drive this home, they presented a key piece of evidence: the now infamous 2016 hotel surveillance video showing Combs physically assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura.
Allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016.
While the defense acknowledged the violence, the prosecution used the video to argue that any claims of consent were a joke. The charges were severe: racketeering and sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. The media narrative was set, and the public was ready for a verdict that felt like a long overdue #MeToo moment for the music industry. Everyone thought they knew what this was about. Turns out, they were wrong. The pivot. But that's not what he was convicted for. After weeks of testimony and days of deliberation, the jury came back with a split decision that stunned the courtroom. Not guilty of racketeering conspiracy, not guilty of sex trafficking. The headline-grabbing charges that could have led to a life sentence had failed to convince the jury. But he didn't walk free, not even close. Sean Combs was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. He remains in custody and is awaiting sentencing, where he could face up to 10 years in prison for each count. So what does that actually mean? The conviction is based on a century-old federal law called the Mann Act. It was originally passed in 1910 as the White Slave Traffic Act to fight forced prostitution by making it illegal to transport anyone across state lines for prostitution or debauchery, or for any other immoral purpose. The law has since been updated to be gender-neutral and now targets transportation for any sexual activity that is a criminal offense. In this trial, prosecutors successfully argued that Combs broke this law by flying people across the country for his freak-offs, which involved paid male sex workers and his girlfriends. While the jury didn't buy that he ran a full-blown trafficking enterprise, they were convinced by the evidence that he specifically arranged and paid for transportation for illegal sex. It was a quieter, more technical charge, but it was the one that stuck. The breakdown. Why this verdict happened. So the big question is, why did the prosecution win on these lesser charges but lose on the major ones? It all comes down to the huge burden of proof needed for a racketeering conviction. To prove racketeering, prosecutors had to show more than just individual crimes. They had to prove Combs was the leader of a structured, ongoing criminal organization, and that the crimes were all connected. That's a very high bar to clear. The defense likely argued these events weren't an organized conspiracy, but rather the chaotic and sometimes violent lifestyle of a powerful man, and that the activities were consensual among adults. It seems the jury, while disturbed, wasn't convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that it amounted to a formal criminal enterprise. The sex trafficking charges faced a similar problem. The prosecution had to prove force, fraud, or coercion. While the Cassie video was powerful evidence of violence, the defense may have successfully argued that it didn't prove every woman at these parties was there against her will. In contrast, the Mann Act charges were much simpler. The prosecution just had to prove 2 things. 1, that Combs paid to transport someone across state lines, and 2, that the purpose was to engage in a criminal sexual act, like prostitution. The evidence here was likely far more concrete: flight records, bank statements, and testimony from the specific people on those trips. It was a case built on receipts and logistics, not just on explosive testimony about abuse. The prosecution painted a picture of a monster, but the jury only convicted him on the counts that had a paper trail. This legal battle is far from over, with sentencing and dozens of civil lawsuits still on the horizon. If you want to stay updated on what this all means for his empire and future, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. The implications. What this means for Diddy's future. While Combs and his team might see the acquittal on the major charges as a win, the reality is his world has crumbled. The conviction on 2 felony counts means he faces significant prison time, and the financial and reputational fallout has been catastrophic. Let's start with the empire. Before the allegations, Diddy's net worth was estimated at nearly $1 billion. That number has been slashed. The partnerships that built his fortune are gone. His massive deal with spirits giant Diageo, the force behind Ciroc Vodka and De Leon Tequila, is over. Revolt TV, the media company he founded, has seen him sell his majority stake, and the company is now employee-owned. The Sean John fashion line has vanished from major retailers like Macy's. An e-commerce platform he launched, Empower Global, which was meant to support Black-owned businesses, has faltered as brands have distanced themselves. The damage isn't just financial, it's cultural. The man who once held the key to New York City has had that honor revoked. His alma mater, Howard University, rescinded his honorary degree and returned a $1 million donation. The charter school in Harlem that bore his name has also cut all ties. He has become an outcast in the industries he helped build. This conviction will also have a huge impact on the mountain of civil lawsuits he's facing. There are dozens of lawsuits filed by people alleging sexual assault and abuse, with lawyers announcing plans to file over 100 more. While an acquittal on trafficking might have helped him, a felony conviction for transporting people for prostitution is a devastating blow. It legally validates a key part of many accusers' stories, making it much harder for his lawyers to dismiss them. This conviction gives them leverage, and the financial bleeding from settlements is likely to be massive. In the end, the trial of Sean Diddy Combs finished not with the bang everyone expected, but with the quiet, technical finding of a jury. They didn't sign off on the epic story of a mob-style criminal enterprise. Instead, they convicted him on something more mundane, yet legally concrete: flying people across the country for sex. The verdict is complicated. It's a conviction, but also an acquittal on the charges that carried the most weight. It's a legal victory of sorts for the defense, but a total devastation for Sean Combs' legacy. The story everyone was watching wasn't the one that mattered in court, but the fallout from all of it has been absolute. The king of bad boy has been dethroned, not by sweeping charges of being a monster, but by the paper trail of a felony. What do you think about this verdict? Were you surprised? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.